Welcome back to our series of videos on the Garmin G1000 simulation from MindStar Aviation. In our prior videos, we've given you an overview of the G1000 system. There's still a lot more to see, but right now you're probably anxious to see this thing flying, so let's do a short flight so you can see the instrumentation in action. Before we do that, I want to point out a few more items on the PFD and MFD that I haven't shown you yet. As you recall, the PFD shows you basic flight instrumentation, and the MFD shows you engine instrumentation and the GPS map. Moving in on the PFD next to the airspeed indicator, you'll notice a few black pointers with letters inside them. Once we're moving forward and have some forward speed, these pointers will show you some key airspeeds for the Cessna 182. The pointers denote best glide speed, best rate of climb, best angle of climb, and rotation speed. They're all gathered here at the bottom when we're not moving, but once we have some forward speed and the airspeed indicator comes alive, they will pop into their respective positions on the airspeed tape. The other area I want to point out is over here on the MFD. In particular, I want you to notice the manifold pressure gauge and the RPM gauge. The throttle lever on the control panel controls the overall power output by the engine, and it's reflected on the G1000 as manifold pressure. The prop lever on the control panel controls the pitch of the propeller blades, and by doing that establishes a specific RPM setting for the engine. The last item I want to point out before our flight is the rightmost soft key on the primary flight display. The rightmost soft key is reserved for any alerts that the G1000 thinks you need to know about. Alerts come in three flavors. Informational alerts are displayed in white, caution alerts are displayed in yellow, and critical alerts are displayed in red. Right now we see a flashing caution, so we need to press the rightmost soft key underneath the word caution to see what the alert is trying to tell us. So if I click this caution key right here, we see the alert is telling us that the pitot heat is off. In this particular flight, we're not going to need the pitot heat, and we also see that same alert up here in the annunciators section. So we can press the soft key again to make the alert stop flashing. Pitot heat is still off, but that's fine for this particular flight. So let's put the PFD back in its position and let's go flying. The engine's already running for this particular flight, so I'm just going to apply full power and then we'll take off. Notice our manifold pressure and our RPM went to their fullest extents, and now we're watching the airspeed indicator as it starts to climb. You see the rotation speed already showing up on the airspeed tape, and we're coming right up on our rotation speed of 55 knots. We'll start to rotate at this point, and now we're up in the air. As we continue to accelerate, you can also pay attention to the vertical speed indicator on the right-hand side of the altimeter. It continues to climb, and we're holding about 78, 79 knots right now. So we'll pitch down a little bit and let our airspeed build up a little more. I've paused the simulation for a moment so I can show you some things on the MFD that are really interesting. In the middle of the GPS map, you see an overlay of our airplane on top of the map. You'll see the blue lines denoting the Class Bravo or Class B airspace around Dulles Airport and our departure from the KJYO or Leesburg, Virginia airport. In front of the airplane, you'll see a blue dashed line. That line is a track prediction vector. It shows us where our airplane will be in 60 seconds. This is particularly useful if you're trying to time a turn or even figure out your distance or time from an obstacle or other traffic. At the top of the PFD display, you'll see our ground speed automatically calculated by the G1000. So now I'll unpause the flight and continue flying. The other thing I'd like to do right now is turn on the autopilot. So I'll bring up the autopilot here, and what I'm going to do is activate it by pressing the AP button, which automatically goes into roll mode and vertical speed mode. The CAP 140 captures whatever our current vertical speed was at the time we pressed the AP button to turn on the autopilot. If we want to increase our vertical speed, we use the up and down buttons to select a new vertical speed. The new vertical speed displays momentarily in the window, and then it goes back to our selected altitude. As the airplane continues to climb, let's look more carefully at the airspeed indicator on the G1000. One of the nice things about the airspeed indicator is that it shows a trend vector, a speed trend vector, just to the side of the airspeed indicator. So in our climb, I'm going to decrease our power just a little bit, and you'll see the trend vector extend down. That tells us where our airspeed will be in a few seconds. And if I add the power back, the trend vector now extends above the center line, telling us that we're accelerating and where our airspeed will be in a few seconds. Once the speed stabilizes, the trend vector becomes very thin or completely disappears. So that's the beginnings of a flight in the Garmin G1000. There's a lot more to talk about, and we'll talk about more in our next videos.